Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, an episode which would be called 4.6 litres of fun, except we've got two of the damn things. It's 9.2 litres of joy, because today we're focusing on both the 4.6 litre Rover P6 and the 4.6 litre Ford Police Crown Victoria Police Interceptor. Too many words for the police just there. Both of these cars I've just recently returned to the road, and both have a few minor niggly little problems to sort out. But first of all, there are a couple of bits which could not have been done without the aid of some expat Brits now living in America for both of these cars as it goes. So a little couple of parcels have crossed the Atlantic in much the same way as the Crown Victoria did itself. First of all, let's start with this one. For the Crown Vic, something I've got to do in this episode is refit the plastic sill panels, sill covers that go down the side of these cars, which incredibly cost about 200 quid each if you can still find them. And these plastic things here are the strange clips that actually hold these onto the car. Believe it or not, very hard to find. Simple plastic clips, unobtainium. Ford don't carry them. The big American parts pump companies like Rock Auto don't hold them anymore. eBay in the UK don't hold them anymore. Only eBay in America, and American eBay sellers will not post to the UK. They're really funny about that kind of thing. Luckily, I've got some friends in America, including Darren from Auto Atlantica YouTube channel, who actually lives in Ohio, not far from where this car was based all of its working career. Very kindly sorted out buying these over, checking they're the right things, and then shipping them on to me here in the UK. These will be fun to fit because, well, they don't look too complicated. They are a simple little plastic bit which is hinged in the middle. You drill a hole into the sill, one on the side, oh I can't bend it with one hand, one on the side, one underneath, and then you put the little peg through to hold it in place, except of course it's a square hole, so I've got to figure out how to drill a square hole with a round drill. We'll come to that in a second. That's one exciting thing. Young Stephen, formerly of this here parish, now lives in New Jersey and runs a company called Additive Restoration, where he reverse engineers old car components and remakes them. So he's got some pretty clever tools and a pretty unique set of skills. Now this car, as you know, is a Rover 3500, because that's what it says in the boot. However, that is no longer relevant because this car is no longer a 3.5, it's a 4.6. So what I need is in fact a 4.6 badge. Isn't that fantastic? We had a lot of long conversations about this, discussing exactly what font to use, the finish of the metal, and he's got this so close. We've got the chamfered edges on the aluminium, and it is solid aluminium, just like the original badge. We'll never know the exact font. It was perhaps not even an actual font, it may be just letters created for Rover. But this is astonishingly close, and we've called it an S because this is ultimately going to be a manual, so we're getting ahead of the game just here. The only difference here is it's stuck on with 3M adhesive rather than the pins into the boot. So that, I will clean up this boot area and fit that on there. That just looks so good. And it's a kind of subtle little thing that most people aren't going to notice, but if you know what you're looking for, that will give the game away. And if you're interested in what else Additive Restorations do, I'll put a link in the description because they do some really very, very interesting stuff, creating parts for vintage sports cars, Ferraris, one-off pieces that you can't get anymore, and re-engineering stuff better than it could have been done 50 years ago, for example. Really fascinating things. Yeah, so put some links in the description, and a massive, massive thank you to Stephen for doing this for me. It does look so good. So I've popped this badge off, given the whole area a good clean up with some waterless wash and wax, and used some masking tape to sort of mark the position of where this has got to go back to. That pops off, this pops on, and now it's like the Lego transfers where you always get them slightly wonky. There we go. That's probably somewhere near accurate. Now Sleaze has got his true identity. You can really tell it's been harvest season around here. All the fields are now empty and the car is full of dust. This car will fire up. I shouldn't have said that, should I? There we go. But you can already hear it. Little squeaky, which starts off quite softly, but pretty soon it's going to get quite bad. Now, it's got worse very quickly, and I'm not sure if it's the fan belt which is not fully tight, and if I rev this thing up, you can see a bit of flex in that, or the alternator is not fully square on the front of the engine, and it's putting undue tension on the shaft of the alternator itself. So first off, I will quickly try tightening that and see if I can solve that little problem. In fact, looking at it now, I couldn't see that before. I can see it from this angle. The alternator is actually sitting about half a centimetre back from the fan pulley. No wonder it's squeaking, geez. So what I need to do is to shim the entire alternator forward about 4mm, crikey. Really obvious from this angle, I've never stood in this position before. Right, okay, let's deal with that. So I have been staring and pondering at this for a few minutes, and I've been thinking what I'm trying to do is stack the entire alternator away from the engine. But that's probably a silly idea. What a better idea would be is to go and find a longer nosed front pulley for it. This one looks like it's the same, if maybe just a millimetre or two difference. That's no good. I'm sure I've got some other ones from old alternators that I've not thrown away, so I'll dig through my box of bits, and hopefully by the end of this video I'll have that sorted out, because I can't really take this thing for a drive because it will either damage the alternator or shred the belt and it'll leave me stranded. Incidentally, I know I have previously said about MOTing this car or not. It's MOT exempt, and I've used it for a few short journeys kind of running in, and I've done lots of inspections on it myself. I've not actually MOTed it yet because I'm not satisfied that the car is good and it's still very much in shakedown mode, but I will take it up to my local garage. I've spoken to the MOT man at my local place who does everything else, and we can either do a MOT style inspection on it rather than an actual inspection, or if it looks confident it's going to go through without any other issues, do an actual MOT, a proper MOT. But you know, I'm going to get him to inspect it one way or another, so we've got a professional looking at it, checking the brakes, checking for corrosion in places I can't see, the stuff that really matters. Those are the two things I really care about, brakes and corrosion. Everything else is just a nicety, and I don't want to fail the car, you know, on something silly like the speed of the indicators or a headlamp aim or something that's just irritating to sort out, and it doesn't really matter because I'll never use that feature. And now, the Crown Vic. I can't point backwards, the Crown Vic. Now, this car hasn't done a huge number of miles in the last few weeks because every time I go to start the car, it does this. Yeah, the battery is very, very dead. It was quite an old battery when it was working in America. Then sitting around as a pool car did it no favours, and then sitting around for weeks on end in New York Harbour waiting to get put onto a ship, and then finally the crossing itself, which took a minute, absolutely did for it. I stuck it on charge and managed to resurrect it, and it was going sort of okay, but then of course it was sat around here for the best part of a year while I did all the welding on it, and that really did for it. So every single start has been with a jump pack, and that's getting tiresome. So the first thing to do was fit in your battery. Damn, that's heavy. So I got myself a very nice Yuasa. Now, finding the exact size of this car is a kind of tricky one because I don't do the exact like-for-like sizes across UK to America, so finding one with enough cranking amps and the right size format is surprisingly tricky. In the end though, we went for this Yuasa. It's a YBX 3086 with 680 amp hours, which is a little bit lower than the American one, but it does start the car really easily, and well, so far so good. I'm happy. It's a little tiny bit tall at the front, but not enough to interfere with the bonnet line, so we're all good just there. And the car does actually start properly now, which is a huge relief. Now on to the actual problems and the reasons I've not been using this car as much as I would like to. Firstly, behind the shiny hubcap are some brakes. They stop the car perfectly, well enough to pass an MOT with no issues whatsoever. However, this one, I think by the sound of it, is binding just a tiny bit. And the economy on this car is not fabulous to start with, so having a bindy brake isn't exactly helping the situation anymore. So let's whip this wheel off, have a quick look at that brake caliper. That doesn't feel like it's spinning as easily as it should do. So yeah, let's whip this thing off and have a look at that brake caliper. Gosh, this should turn quite easily, but that is surprisingly tight. No wonder the fuel economy is so down. Let's see if we can get this thing apart. There we go. This, I think, is the new caliper which I installed for the first MOT. So it's only a couple of years old, but why would it be binding up? Also, we had split gaiters on the MOT, which are actually splitting a bit worse now, so I need to get a new drop link for this side. That's all. It's actually gone a bit crusty now. It looked okay a couple of weeks ago, so my next order of bits from Rock Auto needs to be at least one of those, probably both of them. Well, I just thought I'd quickly check that these do move okay, and well, this one certainly does. Let's try the other one. Yeah, that one does too. So I wonder why it's not retracting as it should. I wonder if this flexi has got a bit swollen inside. I need 2 G-clamps because as I put one in, it's pushing the other one out. Well, they seem to move quite smoothly, so what I'm going to do is refit these, but with a bit of extra grease on the bottom, so that maybe it'll just move a tad more easily. So I'm taking care not to get any of this grease onto the disc itself, only on the tips of the pads, because I don't want grease getting onto there, because that would be a problem. Because if these have rusted up a touch, that will be where it's causing a problem. Okay, the wheel's back on. Let's see if this spins now. That's more like it. Probably just saved about 10 mpg by doing that. Awesome. Incidentally, I did take this thing for a short drive last night, and I used the V-Power, which was the first fuel which came out of the Mercedes, instead of the horrible ethanol or gunk that had been floating on top of it. And tell you what, this thing, it just cruised so sweetly on V-Power. It normally doesn't get treated to that because, you know, it's tuned for American petrol, which is a lot like American beer, which is a bit like in a canoe, as the old joke says. So it'll basically run on terps. So when I treat it to V-Power, oh, it absolutely sings. Anyway, right, so that's good. Now to move on to the less fun, more tricky bit. How on earth am I going to drill square holes in order to fit those clips to put the sill covers back on? Well, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. When you've got a 4.6 litre V8 tugging you along, it's kind of hard to notice the difference with just a light throttle input. I can't hear any scraping now, which is good. I'm literally only going around the block just to check the brakes work and also to turn the car around so I can work on that next bit. But that feels pretty good, I've got to say. Right, I'm starting on the driver's side because we have got some survivors here to kind of give me a clue as to how this all fits together. Now the problem is, although these are hanging down, there aren't holes where I've had to do the replacement metal work, and if you look at the new ones, there should be little prongs sticking out the back. So this is the old one with the snapped off bits, and this is the new one, and there are little square and round pegs included in the kit that I need to be hammering in there in order to make it all fit properly. Easy peasy, you might say. Now let's have a quick look at what it goes into. So we've got the round circle here on the upright, which is easy. Then under the bottom we've got a square hole. Now I'm not quite sure how I'm going to drill a square hole. That will be something of an issue, I'd imagine. Okay, so bit of measurement, and that is an 8mm, and I believe so is that, but somehow square. This one though, because it is pre-existing, I can actually go in and install this one. Right, just need to do that for about 36 more times and we're done. Oh. So far I've cracked 2 of these damn things, trying to tap them into the hole. And the bit that matters is the bottom bit down there, which is no longer connected. Maybe I'll take it off again. Maybe I'll take it to a body shop to do it. I thought this would be a tricky job, and you know what? I was 100% right, but it's actually an awful lot trickier than I thought it would be, because these plastic things, well, I don't know about the original Ford ones, but the recreation ones are shockingly brittle. So what I think I'm going to do is not break any more of them, as they had to come all the way from America, and they're not cheap. And the other thing is that this thing here, this is the actual thing that clips onto it, and it just snaps over. And on the inside of it, you have these specifically positioned lips, ridges if you like, have to be in the right place to marry up with these, otherwise it won't do anything, so there's no point doing it. Because I'm going to run out of these things, fortunately there are a couple of survivors of the original Ford ones. I've reused one just there. we can get away with losing 1, maybe 2 on each side. So what I'm going to do is take this down to a body shop. I cannot risk losing any more of these. The only other option I could do is to get some screws and screw these. That's broken, that's not even complete. Rather than trying to drill square holes, could I actually drill a hole and just use a, or maybe that's option 2, rather than trying to use the plastic pegs which cause damage, maybe I use screws and attach that like that. That might be doing the trick. That option does kind of work. It's not very elegant, but it does sort of work. Yeah. I'm not 100% happy with that, but it does sort of do the trick. So I thought I'd try a second one, but yeah, I guess that's the end of that particular game for the time being, isn't it? Ooh, look, it's done. I gave it some serious thought and decided that with the application of screws and this stuff, which is apparently very sticky indeed, I could probably make it work. So I reasoned it couldn't be that difficult. It must be some way of doing it. We made a couple of little additions to the original plan. So first of all, as you can see, I've used glue so that the weight of it is working on the original peg from Ford. That's great. But then holding it underneath here, I'm using the sticks-like, very sticky stuff to make sure it's held completely in place as well, which is a good thing. Secondly, I started moving the screw further towards the top of it because I realised, or I thought, that when it's back here, let's get on these things, there's potentially too much flex and it might snap because those replacement ones did seem quite brittle. And finally hit on the third evolution, and that was to use the original hole and a big washer. So rather than drilling through the clip, I'm actually using the intended hole but with a screw and a washer, and that seems to be the best solution of them all. So now I just need to go and get yet more of the old Dynax S50 cavity wax, load up the sill as much as is humanly possible so that we can take care of the new drill holes and of course the back of the screws we've put through. I think I'm rust proof now as well. Right, now, fitting the sill, I think, is basically just a matter of lining up and smacking it. Let's hope it'll be in the right place. That seems to do the trick, actually. Wow, who knew? Oh, I've gone too far forward. Peel off again, which is easier said than done. Those clips are really good. Yep, old trim tools. This takes me back to a year or so ago when I was getting into the whole adventure of disasterdom. Back when I didn't know what was going to be underneath there. So there we go, it is done. That is the finishing touch to complete the car, although things are never done, projects are never really complete, and I'm now seeing that because I've had to build the ends of the edge of that wheel arch just there and the bottom of the wing from scratch with no reference point because the metal was all gone, they don't quite match up, so I am going to have to go and buy a pair of front wings from America. Next time I go to America for any reason, I'm going to come back on a ship. You can have an inside cabin on the Queen Mary across the Atlantic for £799, and that is less than the shipping cost of those wings. So next time I've got any excuse to go to America, I will do that. I'll come back and carry them as hand luggage on the Queen Mary rather than trying to ship them on FedEx or UPS or whatever, and that will then be done. Then I can get them painted and then the car will be done. But I don't think projects are never completely finished, but I mean, whereas this is a slightly more extreme version of projects never quite being finished. I just got to repeat this on the other side again. I won't bore you with that because it's just drilling holes and smacking bits of plastic together. But those clips do hold really, really well. And well, it has been bugging me a tiny bit as I've been driving the car the last week or two since the MOT, having those little plastic clips hanging down looking really messy. No one else is going to notice that ill-fitting sill panel. I will notice it every time I see the car. It's going to bug the hell out of me indefinitely until it's done. But there is an end in sight as far as going to another country and buying parts and shipping them halfway across the world. But apart from that, we're virtually done now. So yes, amazing. So as I say, I wouldn't go anywhere near as far as calling this project done because there's always a ton more things to do on any of these cars. I mean, just look around here. Always a ton more stuff waiting to happen in the wings. But this is now, you know, I can drive it and not worry about it, apart from the fact I'm worried that the auxiliary belt is going to snap at any moment and leave me stranded, and I need to change those drop links, which were highlighted in the MOT as an urgent advisory.
Yeah, no, it's just stuff. But there's also lots more fun things to do on this car as well. Make it a bit more copified, because lots of copy things to do to this car to make it more copy, which is good. Right, so anyway, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, head to furiousdrum.co.uk, the merch store to find hats on there yet. T-shirts are there, stickers, mugs, magnets, many other fun things. And join me again next time, where I think I might actually go back and do some work on the Mercedes. It does happen sometimes, not often, but now and then. Thanks for watching, goodbye.